Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Deutsche Martini. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you're having an amazing day. Before I proceed with today's topic, I wanted to wish you all a very happy 2025. I hope this year is kind to you. I hope it brings you health, happiness, love, bravery, time, fulfillment, freedom, and just everything you wished for. And I hope this is your year. And I hope you have fun living and just, make some great memories. For the first episode of the year, I had this extremely nice plan of what I wanted to do and what I wanted to commemorate because it was really personally important to me. However, in a very much me manner, life got in the way, or at least something rather curious happened. And I feel like this is far more entertaining to hear. And it's just like, it just matches my vibe. It just matches who I am. And of course, it's going to happen to me. So, also, I need to vent because it is so extremely pressing and relevant right now that I just need to get it off my chest because this thing literally happened less than 24 hours ago. I would have actually recorded this episode the second it ended, but I just didn't have it in me. Like, I was exhausted. So, what am I talking about? I am talking about my trip back to the Netherlands from Bulgaria. And why is this a worthwhile topic? Well, because this trip was one of my worst trips ever in my entire life. And it's so exhausting, it's actually funny. Wait, no, stop. You know what I did just here? I justified. And I already said that I will not justify why I'm talking about the things that I'm talking about. So I just want to share it with you, period. Like, there's no need to make it meaningful. I just want to share it with you. So, first of all, I had my date wrong. I don't know why, but I had convinced myself that I am flying on the 5th. And you can imagine my surprise when I've already made plans. I've laid out everything for the next couple of days, had a trip planned, just to receive an email on the 1st telling me that I need to check in for my flight. And I was so confused because checking in was supposed to open only 48 hours before the flight. So then I scrolled down, and what I saw is that I was supposed to fly not on the 5th, but on the 3rd. And because my flight was at 5 a.m., that meant that I literally had a day to pack my luggage, cancel my plans, go say my goodbyes, and leave for Sofia to be able to catch my flight. And I was very annoyed with myself for getting the dates wrong, but you know what? I feel like I did it because on a deeper level, I did not want to leave Bulgaria. And this is something I experience almost every single time I go there, or at least every single time I go there and actually have a nice time. And if you've listened to the last episodes before I went to Bulgaria, just from the very things I was sharing about me going through in my day-to-day, you would be able to tell that no matter where I went, I would be having a better time than the one I was having here. I very much needed to go home because my everyday life here in the Netherlands became very exhausting in the last couple of months. Well, since the academic year started back in September, because I don't have any days off. I always have to be on top of my game, and I don't have time to cope with everything that's going on or just anything that's going on in my life and all the change that I'm experiencing. And I have to do this while swimming and drowning in loneliness. And I just very much needed to distance myself from that reality, distance myself from those places, from that mentality, this everyday and those habits. And going to Bulgaria was very much served this purpose. And I'm so extremely appreciative and grateful that I got the chance to do it, because I would have, I was on the brink of falling apart. I was continuously falling apart since September, but by December, I was already at my limits. And the thought of going home was the only thing that was keeping me going, because even though at home I still had to study and I still had responsibilities, it was just different. I would like when I'm in Bulgaria, I'm situated in a different place, in a different environment, which calls for a different manifestation of myself. It is just that in Bulgaria, I'm in a place where I feel comfortable. Is it chaotic? Yes. Is it my chaos? Absolutely. And it's just a place where I feel cozy. A big thing that kept me going was the fact that I knew that I was about to be surrounded by people I love and by people I know love me. So, if not anything else, at least the loneliness aspect of living in the Netherlands was going to be eradicated, which, trust me, that is a lot, because loneliness can be so extremely all consuming, and its presence in my life underlines a lot of my decisions, a lot of my doings, and a lot of my thoughts. So the pure fact that I was going to be surrounded by family and friends was extremely comforting. And the thing is, having tasted the lack of loneliness over the past 3 weeks now exacerbates how lonely I actually feel here. So it is a double-edged sword. Like, I'm very much grateful that I got to experience being loved over the past almost a month. But being here now in this space, knowing that, well, at least feeling not loved and not being surrounded by love, and it's just a lot. And I just as you can imagine, I did not want to leave that bubble, even though I knew that was not my lived reality, because my friends are leaving as well. They don't live in our hometown anymore. And this is something I need to remind myself every time I think about quitting and going home, because in moments of severe hardship, I just want to give everything and everyone the finger and move back home. But I don't do it for a lot of reasons. The biggest one being me respecting all the effort I have put into this and me trying to stay focused on what I'm working towards. But anyway, so because none of my friends live in our hometown anymore, that it would have been different. Everyone is away to study. Yes, they're still in Bulgaria, but they don't live in our hometown and they hardly ever get the chance to go home. So when I see them, it is because of holidays or because of a particular event, or they've gone home for the summer. So the experiences I have there back home are not representative of what my reality would actually look like if I moved back home. But because of this, I am trying my best to enjoy my time, be it as unrealistic as it is when I go home. And this time I actually loved my stay back home. I was not as academically productive as I wanted to be. That is true. And yes, I will pay for this now with my exams being in a week and me being very ill prepared and having 1,700 things to tend to before the exams. However, I had forced myself to be as productive as possible before I left so that I can actually enjoy some very much deserved and needed rest. So it is bad. It is not as bad as it could be, which is great. And I wasn't as physically active as I wanted to be, like quite literally. I met my daily steps goal 3 or 4 times for the 3 weeks I was there. And if you know me, you know that in my day-to-day life, and I am not over exaggerating, if you want me to, I will send you my, like, I have a smart band and it's like measuring how many steps I take a day. I'm literally walking I'm doing more than 20,000 steps a day. If you need proof, I can provide it to you. But I barely met my 10,000 steps a day goal over those 3 weeks. And well, part of that was because there was snow up to my knees and I was stuck in my house for 3 days because there were so many trees fallen down that we couldn't go anywhere, even if we wanted to. And I know that 3 weeks sounds like a long time, but it flew by so fast. Let me explain why it flew by so fast. So the first week, none of my friends were back home because I arrived earlier than I normally would, because the plane tickets for the days that I actually was free to travel were so expensive. So I had to move my responsibilities around to be able to actually afford financially to go home. So I usually accommodate my traveling to my studies and my work. And now this time I had to skip work and university, which is not great as you can imagine. But the thing is, the tickets for the days after my university and work ended were triple the price. And I have a friend who lives in Florida, and we were on FaceTime, and it was quite literally, no exaggeration here, more affordable for me to go spend New Year's with him than me going home. And I'm sorry, but like, that's just crazy. And this is with the cheap airlines. I'm talking about the Wizz Airs and Ryanairs of it all. So that is just crazy. And capitalism is winning yet again, profiting off of people's need to be with family over familial events. So shout out capitalism. Anyways, so I was like, yes, I could potentially stay and work a week and a half more, but that did not make any sense financially, because that money that I would earn during that time was going to go directly towards plane tickets. So I wouldn't even see a cent of it. So yeah, it just didn't make any sense really to stay here that week and a half more, because my contract at work is very flexible in the sense that I could get more time off. So I just worked as much as I could during the 2 weeks of December that I was here in the Netherlands to be able to make my hours so that I can pay my bills and so that I can qualify for student financing, because that is something I am taking here in the Netherlands, and there are requirements that you have to fill. One of them being working an X amount of hours every month, and I had to fit in a month's worth of work in 2 weeks. So that is why I was on the brink of ending it all. So yes, I left the earliest I have ever left for Christmas, and I was literally, you know what, I was literally about to tell you about my trip back home, not my entire experience back home, but like, okay, so I'll keep it brief to, get to the point. So back home, I really enjoyed it because it was very much needed rest, mentally, physically, emotionally, and I just needed to be home. And I'm so extremely happy that I got the opportunity to be home. And yeah, that's it. Like, they're like, I'll spare you the details. Like, I'm sure you don't care. So let's stick to the trip topic back, like, of it all. So my trip, I only found out on the 1st that I'm flying on the 3rd and not on the 5th, as I thought. So I had to get ready as quickly as possible and leave for Sofia, where I stayed with my sister. And let me tell you, that trip from beginning to end was something else. It was hand curated by karma, the universe, and God to provide me with this plot to give to you as an episode here. Because apparently the universe is looking out for Dirty Martini. So my parents dropped me off at the bus station to catch my bus from my hometown to Sofia. And because karma is a thing that loves to make fun of me, one of my high school bullies was on the same bus. And I was talking about them a couple of days prior, and I was telling my friends how extremely happy I am that I haven't seen them since we graduated, since prom, literally. And Karma overheard this conversation and was like, "Are you sure about that?" So that person was on the very same bus. And because Karma loves irony, I was supposed to be sitting right next to that person. But thankfully, thank God, someone had sat in my seat and did not want to move. So I just sat next to some lady that was on her phone the entire time. And I, of course, naturally tried to stalk to see what she was texting about, but I just couldn't because of the angle that she was positioning her phone. And here's the thing, I am nosy. I am nosy, but in a subtle way that would never allow me to tell you I am all in for the gossip. And if you open your phone next to me, I am definitely going to look over my shoulder as subtly as I can to see what you're doing. Like, I don't know. I'm sorry, that's just the way I am. I know curiosity kills the cat most of the time, but I am just nosy. When it comes to strangers, actually, in particular, when it comes to my friends and family, I'm very respectful of their privacy. But when it comes to strangers, I'm like, girl, that is totally on you for opening this in a public space. And don't even get me started about when someone is sitting in front of me in a lecture and they start texting on their laptop. Girl, I am reading everything. Like, yes, we are making plans now. Anyways, so that person was on there and I was annoyed, but most of all, during the ride, I was kind of petrified. I mean, not petrified, but like leaning towards a petrified state. It was very weird because I've moved on from what this person did to me. I mean, I do still carry some of the lessons that experience brought to me. Yes, that's definite. But I really thought I was over it because it's been ages, and I really thought I would not let this person have any power over me. But I just remember this one time. It's so extremely vivid in my mind when this person made me cry in school for using lip balm. Like, I know it is so stupid and nonsensical, but when have high school bullies made any sense whatsoever? And of course, using lip balm and hydrating your lips to not make them as crusty as that person's lips were. I'm being mean. I should not be mean. I should be better than them. But like, that person hurt me in ways I am still carrying. Anyways, I should not hurt them back. Turn the other cheek. But anyway, so that person made me cry because of using lip balm and mocked me so extremely much. And the thing is, my lips were dry during that bus ride because in Bulgaria, it is winter. And I mean winter with a capital W, like snow and cold and frost. Why did I say frost? Anyways, and because of that, naturally, your skin dries up and so do your lips, and you have to be continuously hydrating them. So my lips were dry during that bus ride, but I just couldn't get myself to use lip balm because I was like, no, this will trigger emotions that I don't need to be triggered right now. So I stayed with crusty, dusty lips during the 3-hour trip, and isn't that fun? No matter how much we grow, no matter how much we change and distance ourselves from what used to be, we still can carry the pain from the past. Even if we push it away, even if we ignore it, even if we convince ourselves we're okay, even if we work extremely hard on overcoming all the trauma. And then I was very anxious about sitting a couple of rows ahead of that person because that person and their friend group, who I despise, I mean, I don't wish them anything bad. I hope they're healthy and I hope they're happy. but I hope they're healthy and happy away from me and everything and everyone I love, because I don't need their energy. Maybe they've changed. I don't know. It's been almost 4 years since we graduated, and I would imagine that for 4 years people will change, because I certainly have changed. So I would hope for their own good they have changed, because according to my personal criteria, they're not the best people. They were not the best people. Not that I was back then or that I am now. I'm not an angel in any way. But even back then, when I didn't know any better, I still had some humanity in me. Anyway, so I wish them well. Just be well away from me. And so back in high school, that person and their friend group would take pictures of people they would mock and just distribute them. And I was so anxious that this person was taking pictures of me while I was like in my seat on the bus, and I was just trying my best to look away, like, not look through the window that was facing their seat, because I just could not bear the thought of being brought back to high school and being mocked all over again. Because, oh my God, no matter how much money you would pay me, I am never going back to high school. That girl, my high school self, I just wish I could hug her, because that's all she needed. She was struggling so much. She was struggling a lot with herself, with others. And yeah, I don't want to make her suffer again, and I don't want to make myself suffer. So, but you know what's the funny thing? The funny thing is, and I promise you, my mom did not do it as a mean thing. My mom is not a mean person whatsoever. It's just like, yeah, she didn't do it as a bad thing. But when we were at the bus stop and I told my parents, oh my God, they're here. What is my luck? And my mom started looking around because she doesn't know what that person looks like. And she was like, are you sure? Nobody here seems to be your age. Everybody appears to be much older. And again, I know my mom did not mean it as a mean thing, but like, thank you. I guess I shouldn't be enjoying it, and I know I shouldn't be, but I know, like, come on, like, karma knows its thing. I got my karma. It's time for them to get theirs. Anyway, so I arrive in Sofia, and oh my God, the air is dirty. That's a reason why I would not want to live in Sofia, because the air is so extremely dirty. And I personally don't like Sofia because it is so extremely busy. And I don't know, like, I come from an extremely small town, and Sofia is definitely worth visiting. If you've never been there, there are a lot of things to do there for sure. And also, like, livelihood wise, there's a lot of prospects for development, definitely, but it's just not my personal favorite city. If I were to go back to Bulgaria, for me, Plovdiv is the way to go. So I arrive in Sofia, and my sister and I go shopping. I trip a couple of times. We have dinner, and we watched Moana. And well, in Europe, Moana is called Vaiana, and I didn't know why before, but apparently it's because of copyright reasons. The name Moana is a copyrighted thing that certain countries in Europe could not buy off of Disney, so they changed Moana to Vaiana. And sue me, I know that this is criminal, but I had never seen Moana before. I know. It's been like almost 10 years since that movie came out, and this is the first time I am seeing it. And I absolutely loved it. And I actually have not seen a lot of the newer animated Disney movies, which is a sin because Disney used to be my entire childhood. So I should really work on this. Anyway, so I go to bed at almost 11 p.m. and I have to wake up at 2 a.m. to go to the airport at around 3-ish to make my flight that's at 5. I've told you before, I never go to the airport early, but this time I had purchased a checked in bag, which I ended up taking as a carry on because I was so extremely anxious. Because, okay, my trip, in order to save myself 300 euros, I had a connecting flight, and it was with an airline I had never flown before. So my trip was from Sofia to Belgrade. I think that's how you pronounce it in English, but Belgrade in Bulgarian, I don't know, Belgrade. So, and from Belgrade to Hamburg. And from Hamburg, I was supposed to take a bus to my town. Now, this quite literally saved me a lot of money, like 300 euros, which is why I did it. And it was one of the, if not the longest trip in my life. And I'm not talking purely about the fact that it took literally 18 hours, but it was just long. I feel like I'm down to do such inhumane trips to save up money now because I'm still young and I can handle it and I'm flexible. But I would imagine that at a certain point, I would not sacrifice my peace and well-being for money, or at least I would hope not. That day that I would not do it, judging by my current prospects, is very far in the future if it even exists. And until that day comes, I will be doing my best to save money. Because let's be real, 300 euros is worth saving, especially in your youth. 300 euros is such a big sum of money. I don't know. I don't need to justify in front of you what I'm doing with my money and how I choose to spend it or save it. So let's just carry on. So where was I? Okay, so I was in Sofia. It was 3 a.m. and I decided to study in the airport because why not? I didn't have the time to study beforehand, so I was just going to study there and I was doing my readings and taking notes. And wait, a little note. I finally would like to officially announce that I had my first airport crush in years. I feel like the last time I had a new airport crush was in 2021, but I just noticed this guy and he was so handsome, but academia code, and I just focused on my studying. Because ladies, we do not let men distract us from our paths, okay? This is the energy you need in 2025 and beyond. Do not let a pretty face uglify your life. And I was so focused on my readings that, let's say 10-ish minutes before boarding ended, I realized that boarding had started, because that airport is a silent airport, because Terminal 2 and Terminal 1 operate in different ways, and Terminal 1 is not a silent airport, but Terminal 2 is a silent airport. And I had just lost track of time and I didn't realize that boarding had started. And again, because it was Terminal 2 and I'm more aware of the layout of Terminal 1, which is where I usually fly from and fly to, I started walking around as a chicken without a head, trying to find my gate, and I was very lost. And I went to this one border control officer, person, security, whatever their job title is. And I asked him. And I was like, hi, do you know where desk 12 is? And in an extremely typical Bulgarian manner, he said, it's not called desk, it's called gate. And I'm like, bestie, it is 4:30 a.m. Does it really matter? So I was like, okay, do you know where gate 12 is? And he's like, well, it's behind me. So I just give him my ID and he checks it and he's like, where are you going? And I'm like, Serbia. And his colleague starts talking to me in Serbian, and I just turn to him and I say, I'm really sorry, I don't understand what you're saying to me. And he replied, don't you speak Bulgarian? And I'm like, yes, of course I do. My ID is literally Bulgarian. You can see it, you're holding it, but you were just talking to me in Serbian. So he starts asking me about my final destination, and he was so perplexed by the fact that I'm going to Serbia and Germany to get to the Netherlands, which fair. And there's 5 minutes until my boarding closes. And those people just refuse to stop talking to me, and they don't let me pass. And they're like, why don't you speak Serbian? Don't you listen to Serbian music? And at this point, I am getting annoyed because I need to make my flight. So I just start messing with them, and I'm like, of course I listen to Serbian music, but I just listen to Serbian music on New Year's with a glass in hand. And then they just started laughing. And then again, they were like, do you speak Bulgarian? And I'm like, we are literally having this conversation in Bulgarian. My nationality says Bulgarian. You see it on my ID. You see where I was born. You see the white, green, red flag on my ID. You know I am Bulgarian. Why are you questioning this? So that was annoying, especially considering that it was extremely early in the morning, or in my case, it was very late at night. And I make the boarding procedure literally 2 minutes before it ends. And I'm like, oh, that was exhilarating. That was something. So I get on the flight, I'm on the plane, and I was kissed by God because I was alone in the aisle. And I was alone in the aisle on my other flight as well, which I mean, like, I'm so extremely thankful about this. I would like to thank the Academy because I could just use the 2 armrests. Because I've mentioned this before, if there's someone in the middle seat, the 2 armrests are their birthright. So now I could just use the 2 of them, and I could just, put my bag in front of the seat next to me and just stretch my legs, which is something I struggle with a lot during flying and just overall traveling, because my knees start hurting like crazy. And that's just being in your 20s, right? I don't mean to sound like I'm ovulating with the airport crush and all this, but oh my God, the steward, the flight attendant who was working my flight was one of the most handsome men I have ever seen in my life. And I know we don't like men as a species, but some of them can live. So at this point, for whatever reason, we are already 30 minutes late with our flight. Like, we just stood like in the line that they're supposed to speed up and just depart. We just stood there for 30 minutes. I don't know why, but I was like, bestie, I have a layover that is just an hour. So 30 minutes, as you can imagine, can be very situation defining. But then we finally departed. And I'm usually never scared of flying anymore because I have done my fair share of flying in the past couple of years. But with all the aircraft crashes and incidents that happened in the past week, I was very anxious, I'm not going to lie. And I'm just happy to report that despite the delay or delays, but I won't get to this. So despite the delays, we arrived in one piece, which is the most important thing. And I'd rather arrive a week later, but arrive alive. And I think this air company took this, what I'm saying now, a bit too seriously, a bit too literally, but let me get to this in a minute. So the thing is, Bulgaria and Serbia are neighboring countries. And because of this, I would never fly to Serbia because that is just so extremely wasteful and makes no sense. But now, because my flight was from Sofia to Hamburg, with that particular airline, they immediately book you a layover in Serbia with that company. I just could not travel to Hamburg without having a layover in Belgrade. So that flight was very, very quick. By the time we departed, we had to land. So my advice is, just like that lady from Ireland, I think, in that meme, don't make unnecessary journeys. Don't take treacherous roads. Because it's literally like, will you arrive in 40 minutes instead of 3 hours? Yes. Is it extremely more polluting? Yes. Will I normally do it if I simply didn't have to because of the way this airline operates? No. Did I only realize post booking that I could have taken a bus to Serbia instead of flying there? Yes. So, just in general, for my future self and you guys, be mindful of those things. Be mindful that the time you're saving costs things. Like, of course, I know that sometimes time is a defining factor, but if you can afford to spend a couple of more hours traveling, I would say do it if it means a more green traveling procedure. So, even though I'm trying, my best to be as environmentally conscious as possible, I don't think I'm too emotionally, not emotionally, well, emotionally as well, but like environmentally knowledgeable. So I would rather shut up on this topic right now so that I don't spread any misinformation, but just like save the turtles, guys. I don't know if flying is related to the turtles. I don't know why I said it. So let's just keep on going. So I arrived in Belgrade on time and I was very nervous because I had never taken a flight with a layover before. So I didn't know how things work out, but it was very seamless. So this seems to show you that there's no need to stress over things you cannot control, even if it's things that are experience defining. If it's out of your control, it's out of your control, no matter how much you stress it. It's not going to change. There's this quote I came across on Pinterest a few years ago, and I have been trying to apply it in my everyday life. It was, no amount of guilt can change the past, and no amount of anxiety can change the future. Reading this the first time changed my brain chemistry. And true, applying this is so much easier said than done, but trying to do so is still worthwhile. So, anyways, enough with the philosophical chit chat. So, let's go back to yapping. So, the layover went extremely smoothly. They literally waited for us in front of the plane and were like, if you have a connecting flight, go this way. If you don't have a connecting flight, go this way. So, I just went the way I was supposed to, and I got to my gate immediately. And I'm supposed to start boarding the next flight in 30 minutes. So I have the sandwiches my sister made me. I go and buy a deodorant from this one chain that I've only seen in Bulgaria, and of course Serbia is going to have it as well, but I've never seen it in Western Europe, and they carry this really nice zero aluminum and zero alcohol deodorant that is extremely long lasting. So I simply had to go and get it because otherwise I cannot bring it with myself on my flight because it is a bigger packaging and you're only allowed 100 milliliters of things. Anyways, just I had to go and stop for this deodorant. So where was I? Yeah, I have the sandwiches, I buy the thing, and I'm waiting for boarding to start, and boarding does not start. And I'm like, that's weird. We're supposed to depart in 15 minutes, and I know the flight is not fully booked, but we aren't that few of people to not give us at least 30 minutes to board the plane. And I'm like, what in the whiz air is going on? So then by the time boarding was supposed to end, they add 10 minutes delay. And after those 10 minutes, they add 10 minutes more. And after those 10 minutes, they add 15 minutes. And after those 15 minutes, they added 30 minutes. And after those 30 minutes, they added an hour delay. And after that 1 hour, they added another hour and a half on top. And my flight that was from originally scheduled to depart at 6:15 was supposed to start boarding at 9 a.m. And as you can imagine, I was annoyed because I had a bus reserved, booked from Hamburg to my city, and I didn't know why, but back when I was booking my trip and organizing everything, I just was like, okay, this is a layover trip. You've never had one of those. Give yourself some extra couple of hours to potentially have a delay and then make up for it. And I think I fully manifested this. So I booked a bus that was 5 hours later than my scheduled original arrival time. So I was like, okay, 2 hours, 3 hours delay is not going to mess it up really badly. I will still be able to make it. And then again, I'm studying in the airport and I'm sitting at the original gate and it's now 30 minutes to departure. And I'm like, why is nobody here? Why am I the only person at the gate? Well, of course they changed the gate and I just simply didn't notice. So I had to run because I don't know why, but like the Belgrade airport is so big compared to what I'm usually used to. Because you guys know I fly from Eindhoven and the Eindhoven airport is an extremely small airport. So this one, I had to walk almost 7 or 8 minutes in one direction to reach from gate 1 to gate 12. So that is a lot when you think about it. And then I eventually make it to the gate and I see that no one started boarding. And I'm like, okay, here we go again. So it kept getting delayed, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. And at this point, I'm getting extremely annoyed because now the delay is over 4 hours and I have a 2.5 hour flight. And then I have, let's say, 10 minutes to go through passport control because I'm flying from Serbia, which is a non-EU country. So even though Bulgaria is now in Schengen, by the way, to my Bulgarians and Romanians, congratulations on getting a Schengen Bulgaria and a Schengen Romania. In my lifetime, in my short yet long lifetime, I have literally witnessed my country get into the EU and now Schengen, and that's just wild. But that's not my point. My point is that even though I am Bulgarian, I am flying from a non-EU country, so non-Schengen country as well. So I have to go through passport control, even though my ID is that of an EU citizen. And of course, that makes sense. It's just like I'm stating the obvious in case. Well, it's not the obvious because like if you are not a traveler, how would you know this? So I have like 10 minutes to go through passport control, go to the bathroom, figure out which terminal I am at because the Hamburg airport has two terminals that are both connected to each other. But then I need to go book a ticket to go to the S-Bahn stop and catch my 25-ish minute subway to the main train station of Hamburg. And from there, I have like a 5-minute walk to go to the main bus station. And because we're running 4 hours late and my bus was 5 hours from my original time, I was very on the brink of whether or not I will make the bus. So at 10, even though my original departure time was 6:15, at 10 we finally started boarding. And you know what happened? They compensated us. They compensated us with a little 7 centimeter sandwich that if I ate, well, I did eat because I didn't have anything anymore to eat because I had eaten the sandwiches my sister gave me. So I'm anxious about my intestines and I didn't buy anything from the store because just seeing the prices and dinners, which is the Serbian currency, freaked me out because it is one of those currencies that you have like, for example, my deodorant was like almost 400 dinars and I'm like, girl, I know it's like 4 euros or something like this, but I'm like, just the number 400 in my mind is like, anyways. So another thing they gave us as a compensation was 250 milliliters of water. And it was very weird to see a plastic bottle with the cap not being attached to the bottle because you know how with the EU regulations, well, I don't know if you know because I don't know if you're from an EU country or if you've been to an EU country, but like according to EU regulations now they have to be attached to the bottle and you have to rip them apart if you want to remove it. And this one just came like this. It came detached, and it brought me back to before that regulation. But because of the delay being so long, I went before boarding to information, and I was like, "Hi, besties. I would like to know what my rights are, because I know what my rights are within the EU, but again, I'm not in the EU, and I don't know if like the same rules apply, because even though my origin and final destination are EU cities, I have a layover in a non-EU city. So I don't know how the law operates there. So I was like, could you please inform me on what my rights are? Because I know that if the delay is over 3 hours, we can get financially compensated. And this, again, I asked while I was still in Serbia, and people at the information barely spoke any English, and they could not understand what I was requesting, or simply because I mentioned financial compensation, that is when their English disappeared. I don't know if they simply didn't speak or they pretended not to speak, because if it's more than 4 hours of a delay, which is what actually happened to me, you're entitled up to 600 euros. So they simply could not help me because of the language barrier, and they just started screaming online, 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 and I'm like, okay, I will figure it out. Thank you very much for being so not helpful, because I don't mean to be rude, but how do you work at an information desk at an airport and don't speak any English? That just doesn't make any sense. Whether we like it or not, English is the international language. And if you work at an information desk at an airport where naturally not only local people are going to be, you should be able to communicate with people. Anyway, so my bus was supposed to be at 1:15, and it is a flex bus. So I was counting on it being late, but I don't know what happened, but it was on time. I guess Flixbus said new year, new me. So my bus was scheduled for 1:15, which meant that I would have to leave at 12:30, the latest, for the main train station. But because we arrived at 12:42, which I am sure about, even though the airline website says differently, which I'm suspecting is because they don't want people to make any claims so that they don't get financially compensated by the company. Anyways, those are just my conspiracy theories. Sorry. So then we had to wait for them to open the doors, which took a long time for whatever reason, and I just simply could not make it. I had to cancel my bus, and the next bus was at 9 p.m. and it was 80 euros. 80 euros. That is just crazy. Like, what do you mean for 80 euros, I could have flown to the Netherlands. Well, not really, because it would have taken me 300 euros, but you know what I mean. Like, that is just crazy, girl. Like, so I'm starting to panic, but a little bit, but like not panic as in what do I do? What do I do? Because I know I'm going to be okay. Like, there is no other choice. I have to be okay. The thing is, I panic more as in panic because of exhaustion. Because at that point, for the past 30 hours, I would say I have slept like 3 hours barely, because I was so extremely anxious for having a layover flight. So I could not sleep properly in a way that would get me rested. So I was exhausted. And I arrived to the main train station in Hamburg, and it's so extremely busy. I sometimes forget how busy German train stations can get. And I'm like, I need to figure out a train. And my Deutsche Bahn and my NS International apps are not loading. And I don't know why, but they were making some mistakes. They were just like not working. I think it's because my data plan was still adjusting from going from Bulgaria to Serbia to Germany to eventually get to the Netherlands, because yeah, that's just what happened. And I was thinking about going to a desk and purchasing a ticket from there, but they eventually like adjusted themselves, and my Deutsche Bahn app started to sort of work, and I could book a ticket from there. And I had to wait an hour, And in this 1 hour, I was approached by so many people. And because I speak German, I could understand what they were saying to me. But because I did not want to be bothered and I didn't want to be mugged, because German train station can be very dangerous. Just not German, but like in general, Western European train stations can be, and bus stations can be very dangerous. So I wanted to preserve myself and have all my belongings, as one would imagine. So I just started talking in Bulgarian to whoever approached me. And here's a pro tip: a lot of people do not differentiate between Slavic languages. And when they hear a Slavic language, a lot of them, I mean, that is a generalization, of course. I don't mean all, but a lot of people I have personally encountered, they don't differentiate between Slavic languages. So a lot of people think that Bulgarian sounds like Russian, and people are afraid of Russians because of movie stereotypes, because just think about it, in every single American movie or TV series, the villain is Russian. This stems back from, political situations, but the villains are usually portrayed to be Russian or some sort of Eastern European person from Eastern Europe who comes and disturbs the peace and quiet of Western Europe. And don't argue with me on this. This is what my entire bachelor thesis was on. I would say I'm pretty knowledgeable on this, especially as someone who experiences this type of attitudes towards them on regular basis. So people are just scared of Eastern Europeans. So use the stereotypes built to degrade you to work for you. I'm sorry, I know this perpetuates them, I know this continues them, but like, if you're going to try to bring me down, you're coming down with me. So of course that doesn't always work. Of course, not everyone is discriminatory towards you. Not everyone is racist, and not everyone hates Eastern Europeans. Not everyone is xenophobic, but a lot of the time this works. So I just started talking in Bulgarian, and people just get scared and leave. I just love doing this when men approach me and try to head on me. So I just started talking in Bulgarian, and they're like, okay. Anyways, that is just a little tried and tested over time experiment that's never failed me. So, of course, with my luck, it is going to snow in Germany while I'm out. And it was very cold, and I wanted to get out of the train station for a little bit because, guys, I was having a day, as you can imagine. And having experienced Deutsche Bahn for the, I don't know what time now, I can very confidently say that I firmly believe in NSNL supremacy, and I will preach this one until the cows come home. Are both of them extremely expensive? Yes. Is one of them more on time than the other? Yes. You can imagine which one. Is one of them more comfortable? Yes. You can imagine which one. So, I'm sorry, but the trains were so extremely overcrowded, and I had to sit on the actual wet floor because my feet and my legs were not able to hold me any longer, and I had to sit down, and there were no seats whatsoever. So if I got any incurable sickness from sitting on that floor, Deutsche Bahn, you will be hearing from my lawyer. And she speaks German, don't worry, aka my friend who studies law, who I will bribe with my mom's cake because I cannot afford to pay her. So that was very fun. And all the trains got delayed and arrived late, consequently, and were just straight up uncomfortable. I don't know how that punctuality stereotype developed when in reality Deutsche Bahn is never on time. So I get to one of the towns that is close to the German-Dutch border, and from there I was supposed to catch another bus, have a transfer, get on another bus, arrive to my city, and then use public transport to make it home. But I noticed that there's a direct bus to my city. How I noticed it? Because it just reeked of weed. Dutch. So I noticed that there's a direct bus to my city, and I went to the bus driver and I wanted to ask him if the ticket I have with the transfers can be validated to be used for this bus. But I literally just went up to him and I said, "Hi, I have a ticket." And he just interrupted me because, men, but like this time I'm not complaining because he was like, "Just get on the bus." So who am I to argue? Interrupt me as much as you want to. And I got on the direct bus then and I arrived to my city. And after another 15-minute public transportation ride, I finally went to my place. And because I just had mayonnaise from before Christmas, I had to go shopping. And then I cooked, I showered, I watched A Cinderella Story with Hilary Duff, which is one of my most favorite movies, and then I went to bed. And I slept, I kid you not, for 12 hours. And that was very much needed, and that is something I will not be able to do anytime soon. So trying to enjoy it for as long as I can. So I left my sister's place at 2:30 and I arrived at my place here around 7-ish in the evening. But don't forget that there's a 1 hour time difference, and those almost 18 hours roughly, I've used a car, bus, plane, bus, subway, train, bus, public transport, and then I got home. And that is the definition of that Lady Gaga meme that is like bus, another club, bus, another club. I lived that, but without the clubbing. And to every single person who dares to tell me, "What do you mean traveling takes you forever? Amsterdam's literally like 3 hours away by plane." Yeah, it's 3 hours away if you live in Sofia and your final destination is Amsterdam, but not if you live in the middle of Bulgaria and you have to go to the north of the Netherlands. So now, I have filed a complaint, like a claim to get financially compensated for the delay, because that really messed up everything. So please pray that I at least milk some money out of this. And my advice to you and to anyone who wants to study abroad is choose a city with an airport, please. Make your life easier and choose a city with an airport, or a city that is no more than an hour from an airport, because that is just terrible. That is just extremely overlooked as an aspect. Because did I come here for the university? Yes. Did I take into account the fact that this city is quite literally almost situated in Germany? No, I did not. So yeah, for me to save 300 euros, I gave 6 hours of my life. But if I end up making money off of this, it would have been worth it. And I would forget all of this and I would do it again. But the thing is, you know what? I'm just exhausted from traveling, and that's on that. So one day, guys, I promise you, one day when I become rich, and I will become rich one day financially, because in other aspects of my life, I'm already rich. I have a family, I have a home, I can afford to have food. So when I become financially rich, I will, well, I cannot move my city closer to an airport and I cannot build an airport here, but I will at least make sure that I can afford to travel comfortably. And I don't mean getting a private jet, I mean like getting the 10 euro more expensive ticket and saving myself a couple of hours. With that being said, until I become wealthy, I want to thank you for listening to this episode. That was my story of how I was for the first time ever in my life in 4 different countries in one single day. I hope you enjoyed it, because even in the middle of it all, I just kept on reminding myself, it's for the plot, it's for the plot, it's for the podcast. So I hope you enjoyed this journey, because I didn't necessarily enjoy it. Hopefully in the future, I will not have many such experiences, but even if I do, you will be the first to hear about them. But until then, stay hydrated, wear sunscreen, and don't support genocide. Bye.